Call the Commerce Committee to order. Michelle, will you please call the roll?
Senator Searpoy.
Here.
Henderson.
Here.
Bernsketter. Carter. Here. Fitzwater. Gregory. May. McCreary. Mosley.
So we have a quorum. We have a quorum, so we'll get started. Can I have a show of hands? Who's going to testify on Senate Bill 239? Who's going to testify on Senate Bill 386? Okay. It looks like we can get Senator Berger out of here quicker, so I think I'll go to him first. So, Senator Berger, I normally go by seniority, but I think your bill's going to be a little easier, so we'll let you go first.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Senator Jamie Berger, representing the 27th Senate District. Thank you for the opportunity to present Senate Bill 239. I've actually worked on this the last 2 or 3 years in the House, and I'm working on it in the Senate, but it's known as a paint recycling bill. It would require the paint industry to set up a system to collect and manage the end of life of leftover architectural paint. Senate Bill 239 would allow producers of architectural paint sold in the state to establish or join a representative organization. Any producer who does not join the organization would be responsible for their own duties separately. A representative organization would develop and submit a plan for the establishment of a post-consumer paint collection program to the Department of Natural Resources. The program must reduce the generation of post-consumer paint, promote the reuse and recycling of a post-consumer paint, manage the post-consumer paint waste stream system using environmentally sound management practices, limit the department's role to oversight activities that include approving the program plan and reviewing the annual report. The plan must include a list of participating producers and brands covered by the program, information on the architectural paint products covered under the program, description of how the program will provide for convenient and cost-effective statewide collection of post-consumer paint, a goal for the number and geographic distribution of sites for the collection of post-consumer paint, a description of how post-consumer paint would be managed in the most environmentally, economically sound manner, description of education and outreach efforts to inform consumers about the program, establish of a per container cost to be added to architectural paint sold in the state, description of how the program will compensate service providers. You know, as I'm going through this bill, I think about all the paint that I have in my basement, the 15 or 20 gallon that I wait for the county to have a recycling program, and I was part of the Scott County Commission for 18 years. And in a matter of 18 years, we only had 4 collection dates, and every time we had those collection dates, it was completely full. We would collect more paint than what we could actually, not get rid of, I should say, but more paint than we were prepared to handle at that time. I think if we had something like this and we had a place to drop it off, people would get rid of that, because if you think about the paint in your basement or on your shelves downstairs or wherever it may be in your garage, it's kind of a fire hazard on top of that too. Anything that generates a BTU value. And one thing I'll kind of share with you too, I come from industry also, a cement plant, and we burn 1.2 million pounds per day of waste fuels, which replaced 20 tons of coal that we burned every hour of every day. Now we burn 1.2 million pounds of waste a day, and part of that includes paint recycling already. We're burning windmill blades that are no longer usable and things like that, so we've become quite an incinerator for waste products or recycling products, and paint would just add to that. Now, I'm not going to profit anything from this bill by no means personally, but it's some way to get rid of what we have stored in our basements, and with that, I'd be willing to answer any questions, and if I can't answer them, the people behind me can. Thank you.
First of all, I think we've heard this bill before. Is the same language as last year?
Yes,
Okay.
basically the same language the last 2 or 3
Well, hopefully
years.
this year the Senate sponsor will do a better job and you'll get it through. So we'll see how that goes. What is the fee on this?
It
Just
could be
remind
up
the
to
committee.
$1 per gallon on
Okay.
a gallon of paint, and
Okay.
then $1.75 to $2 or greater on a 5 gallon.
5 gallon. And it's for latex and oil-based, right? It's for both.
Exactly. More. It's for both. Yes.
Right. Okay, thank you. Questions for the committee? Seeing none, thank you very much. Who's testify in favor of this bill, please come forward. Please let us know who you are and leave a witness form.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Jeremy Jones. I'm with the American Coatings Association. American Coatings Association is the primary trade association for the coatings industry. It's a voluntary organization comprised of major manufacturers that you may know and buy at your local stores. But I also come to you as a former employee of Paint Care, the 501c3 nonprofit that actually operates this program in 10 states plus the District of Columbia and soon later this year in Illinois. I can tell you that this is a program that is incredibly effective, incredibly valuable to communities across the entire state. I went to every single county in Minnesota when that program started to make sure that that community had exactly what it needed in terms of paint recycling needs or anything that it needed to access the program. The program has a long history. It's been around for over 15 years in various other states that have passed similar laws. And what it really does is it takes this really difficult to manage product that people just have, and sometimes they get really desperate when they have it. A lot of times it's around a family member passing or something like that, and then they don't know what to do with it, and it's really expensive to get rid of. So this takes that whole decision-making process out of the way. You pay this small fee up front, and then when you need it, it's there. We have a pickup service. We can take 100 gallons at a time or more, as much as you have, at no charge. This is very valuable for institutions, schools, churches, et cetera. So the program has a ton of services. I won't go into them today at length. They are contained in the bill and described. Happy to take your questions. Again, it's a very community-oriented program, but one that services, again, the entirety of the state with that geographic convenience. We have to provide services throughout the state.
Thank you. So when you say coatings, is that just another word for paint?
Yeah, sorry, term of art. Coatings it refers to like deck stains, primers, anything that you'd put on your house to protect it.
And all that's covered by this bill.
That's correct.
So,
all of that's covered,
So
including
I'm
oil-based.
just thinking, I think it's a great idea because I've got paint in my basement. And do we have any idea how much paint goes just to a landfill unidentified?
Well, in states that don't have this program, it really is up to essentially the, kind of what the local programs can facilitate.
Well, I'm sure they frown on it, but people probably stick it in their trash can anyway, and they dump it, and they just don't dump
Right.
it. So.
Well, what I can tell you, the results of the states where we work is, or rather where Paint Care works, the results are pretty incredible. To your point about the waste to energy, the oil-based paint actually goes to a mix of waste to energy and incineration.
Okay.
A lot of it can actually be reused. When our program comes into the state, we work with Habitat for Humanity to make sure the paint goes back to people.
Do you anticipate all the retailers being part of this?
It's a voluntary program.
Like Menards, Home Depot, and those?
The big box stores have chosen not to participate as a group. They have in some locations, but it's kind of a corporate.
That's where most of the paint sales occur, isn't it?
Well, so we partner with all of the stores. So we've worked with Lowe's, Home Depot, Walmart, et cetera. Anybody that sells paint, they have our brochures in the store, and they have integrated into their training modules what to tell people when they bring it to the paint desk. Usually what happens is if Home Depot doesn't do it, there's an Ace Hardware or a Sherwin-Williams or a similar store, usually around the block, that'll do it. And we just help people to find those places.
And so they will take the paint even if they don't sell it?
Correct. Any brand of paint.
Okay.
Any brand of paint.
Okay.
That's the key here is the industry is all in on this. The industry wants to make it easy. There's no distinction like our paint, your paint. It's just paint.
I just didn't realize the big box because that's the only place I buy paint is Menards or Home Depot or Lowe's, so that surprises me.
Well, it's an ongoing conversation. We've been kind of scratching at their door for the last
So
10 years.
they will be collecting this fee anyway, but they won't be part of the program.
They won't. It's a voluntary collection program, but yeah, the fee will be collected through the sale of paint at those stores.
Okay.
But folks will have opportunities in those areas to drop off paint.
Thank you. Any other questions for? Okay. Senator May.
So let me ask this: how does the big box stores dispose of their paint?
You mean the paint that they use internally?
Well, yeah, and sometimes they have what they call oops paint. They sell it, but then some of it doesn't get sold.
Sure. I believe every retail location, like every hardware store, has some kind of internal disposal system for hazardous waste.
Okay.
where they accumulate it, and they pay to ship it out at their own expense.
Okay, so this is just for consumers, the lay people.
Yeah, as well as small businesses as well,
Okay.
painting contractors, anyone. In fact, for the latex paint, there's no regulations around latex paint, so anybody can bring latex paint in.
Okay, sure, thank you.
You're welcome.
Seeing none, thank you very much. Anybody else in favor of this bill? Anybody? Oh, Richard. You're in favor, Richard? Yes. Okay.
Surprise, huh? Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Richard Sheets. I'm the Executive Director of the Missouri Municipal League, and we'd like to go on record and support Senate Bill 239. Our city officials, I talked to my city folks, and, this is a common request from your constituents, their constituents, and what are we going to do with our paints? Can we have a paint recycling program? And some of our cities certainly have done that, and as Senator Berger indicated, the amount of paint exceeded their expectations, and it becomes really difficult and actually very expensive for our cities to have the recycling of paint. So this would really help to promote that recycling, but also save our cities and our counties money in these recycling efforts. So we wholeheartedly support SB 239. I'll answer any questions if I can.
Thank you. Any questions for Richard? Seeing none, thank you, Richard. Anybody else in favor, please come forward.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Melissa Vatterat. I'm the Director of Policy and Strategy at Missouri Coalition for the Environment. I want to thank the Senator for sponsoring this bill. We have a paint reuse and recycling concern, and I'm grateful that it's continued to be introduced year after year. Many people can get overwhelmed, like you were mentioning, Chairman, about having paint in their basement and don't know what to do with it, and I think that the provisions outlined in this bill will help make sure that we can recycle things properly, and therefore we support it.
Thank you. Any questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you. Okay. Did you do a witness form online? Okay, thank you. Anybody else in favor, please come forward. Anybody in opposition? Anybody for information purposes? Please come forward.
Good morning. My name is Nadja Carpolo, and I work for the Marks Solid Waste Management District in the Kansas City area. And I am here to give you some facts about the program. And I did bring you a couple of handouts. So the top page explains the program overall, and the second page is commonly asked questions, answers to commonly asked questions. So one of the,
do we have those handouts now, or do you have them with you?
I'm sorry?
Do we? You have a handout you want?
Yes, I have right
Would
here.
you bring,
Yeah,
have that
yeah.
brought forward? Thank you, Mike.
So I just want to give you a few highlights, and the first is about access. And as you'll see on the map, there's a comparison of the state of Missouri and the state of Minnesota, which is a paint care state. In Missouri, we only have 10 facilities statewide that accept both latex and oil-based paint. And latex makes up 80% of the paint out there in the world. So we are very limited in access points for dropping off leftover paint. So this would impact particularly rural areas that would be able to have, folks that want to volunteer to be collection sites. In addition, access would expand to businesses, such as nonprofits, churches, painting contractors, schools, what have you. The other point is that the price of managing leftover paint is staggering. That's why there's not very many services for collecting latex paint. If passed, local governments and solid waste districts that currently operate household hazardous waste programs would experience significant cost savings. The paint program would not burden the retailer with handling fee transactions. It's a seamless operation, and there are no recording requirements like there is for the tires and the lead-acid battery program. And additionally, retailers who do participate as a collection facility do so voluntarily. And finally, the Missouri Department of Natural Resources would oversee the program plan that's provided by Paint Care, and they are compensated for this time, so there's no additional cost to the state or to MDNR. So that, do you
So
have any
you're
questions?
with the solid waste?
I am with the Mark Solid Waste Management
Okay.
District.
Do you have any idea how much of this is going into the solid waste sites today? I know it's probably prohibited, but people hide it in their trash, and the trucks come by and they pick up the can and dump it in the back. Nobody ever goes through it. Do we have any idea how much paint is being put in landfills today?
Well, whether it goes into the landfill, I'm not sure, but it is estimated that 1.3 million gallons of paint go unused each year in the state of Missouri. So whether that, sitting in someone's basement, illegally dumped, or put in the landfill, I don't have those numbers.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions for this witness? Senator May.
So, good morning. So we only have 10 sites. So what's the incentive to get more of these sites that will
What-
collect the
What,
paint?
let me just make sure I heard you. I'm hearing impaired. What's the incentive for,
Yes,
for
to
people
get-
to drop
to-
off their old paint?
Well, I'm sure once people are aware of dropping it off, they would. But if we only got 10 locations in the state of Missouri, what's the incentive to get more of the locations that will receive the paint?
Well, the incentive is that people kind of instinctively know not to put it in the trash, a lot of people, so they hang on to it, or they illegally dump it, which is common. So the incentive is convenience. That's a really important thing. When we want people to do the right thing, it has to be convenient. And so this would enable more convenient locations for people to drop off their paint that they're storing in their basement.
So the bill
The
is
bill-
going to create more locations for people to drop off their paint?
That is correct.
Because we only have 10 right now.
We only have 10 facilities.
Okay, very good. That's what I was trying to get
Okay.
clarification on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions? Seeing none. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else for information? That will conclude the hearing on Senate Bill 239. Thank you, Senator Berger. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next, we'll have the hearing on Senate Bill 386. Can I see how many people want to testify in favor of that bill? How many opposed? Okay, we may just go back and forth on that one then. So instead, Senator Trent, come forward, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Curtis Trent, representing Senate District 20. Appreciate the opportunity to present Senate Bill 386. This bill contains enabling language that would allow private developers to site and construct community solar projects up to 5 megawatts, and then allow ratepayers to voluntarily subscribe for the electricity generated, which would then be applied as credits to their utility bill. Project that ratepayers could save anywhere between 10 and 20% per month on their electric bill. Community solar projects exist in some form or another in over 20 states, and this legislation creates no mandates on consumers. It simply allows for private developers to invest in our state. I believe there are many benefits to community solar. One is economic development. There's a lot of businesses that, for whatever reason, demand a mix of renewables in their energy consumption profile. Being able to offer that makes Missouri a more attractive place for them to invest and locate their facilities. In addition to the lower consumer rates, there's an aspect of consumer preference and independence. Consumers increasingly demand some renewable mix in their energy consumption profile as well. It's also going to continue to provide further development of a rapidly maturing technology. This is, costs continue to decline for solar. The reliability continues to increase. And as we continue to use this technology, those benefits will only further accrue. And finally, increased efficiency to the degree that we can bring energy production closer to the point of consumption. The further you have to transmit electricity from any source, the more you lose. And so bringing even some of that production into in closer to your point of consumption provides a benefit of reliability and loss and greater efficiency as well. As you saw, we have a few folks that are here to testify on this issue, but I would be happy to answer any questions the committee might have as well.
Thank you, Senator. Any questions for Senator Trent? Seeing none. First person in favor of the bill, please come forward.
Good morning, and thank you, Chairman Sirpoy and members of the committee. My name is Matthew Hargart, and I'm the Vice President of Government Affairs at CCSA. We represent more than 130 businesses that have deployed over $12 billion in private capital to build over 2,000 community solar projects across the country, enough to power 2 million homes. I'm here to voice our industry's support for this bill. This legislation will lower costs for all ratepayers, make Missouri's grid more resilient, and create thousands of jobs and hundreds of millions in economic development for the state, all without creating mandates or requiring massive upgrades to the transmission system or utility infrastructure. There are 3 forms of solar, all of which play an important role in an all-of-the-above approach to energy. There's utility-scale projects, large projects located on hundreds of acres of land. They enjoy economies of scale and access to efficient designs, but they're hard to site, require expensive transmission infrastructure, and change the landscapes of our rural communities. There's also rooftop solar, small arrays located on your roof. A majority of Missourians cannot access rooftop solar because they rent or have some other reason that they cannot access that. In the middle is community solar. Provides cost savings for households and businesses without needing to install the system on site. Each project has multiple subscribers who choose to buy the energy and receive a credit on their electricity bill for their portion of power produced. This bill does not require state funding, state subsidies, or direct federal subsidies. Community solar projects have a maximum size of 5 megawatts and a footprint of roughly 30 acres at its top. They are often located on a farm's underperforming acreage, helping farmers diversify revenues and hedge against commodity price risks. They can also be built on commercial rooftops or other blighted properties. Community solar is successfully being deployed in over 20 states, and the benefits to Missouri could be many. Community solar will save customers money with no mandates. Ratepayers can choose to stay with their utility default service or subscribe to a community solar facility where they will save on average in the country between 10 and 20%. The process is as easy as signing up for Netflix, and subscriptions can easily be changed or canceled. Missouri is a net importer of electricity. According to EIA data from 2023, in 2023, Missouri ratepayers had to purchase 14% of their electricity from neighboring states. Community solar can help generate electricity in Missouri for Missourians. And load growth, as we've all heard over the last few days with the debate around Senate Bill 4, is growing in Missouri and can be as high as 26% by 2028 because of data centers and AI. This means that in just 3 years, Missouri needs an additional 25% of today's capacity. Legacy generation, while important, is expensive and takes years to permit and construct. One of the great things about community solar is it can play a role in a portfolio approach and be deployed quickly into the existing grid. Community solar is also a major economic driver and could become a new economic incentive tool in the business site selection process to bring new companies into Missouri who require clean energy to locate here. Lastly, I do want to proactively address a few things that you'll probably hear from the utilities today about this bill. The first is about the program's cost. Utilities often oppose customer-driven, third-party owned projects like community solar because they threaten their business model. They use cost shift, the idea that when one ratepayer pays, the others benefit, as a false flag. And because utility rate making is complicated and happens in a black box, it is often very difficult for legislators to know the truth. The reality is that research and numerous cost-benefit analyses from around the country show the so-called cost shift narrative is false, and that benefits of smaller projects bring to the entire electric grid can categorically reduce long-term costs for all ratepayers. That's because small projects that are placed on the distribution system closer to customers make more efficient use of existing infrastructure and allow the utilities to reduce or avoid certain costs that ratepayers would otherwise incur, like expensive transmission systems. Also, subscribers to a community solar project will continue to be the customer of their utility and pay for fixed charges, including distribution fees to support the poles and wires. And importantly, very importantly, this bill does not actually legislate what that bill credit rate would be. So any talk about costs, in our opinion, is very premature. The credit rate will be decided later based on a thorough analysis at the Public Service Commission. Second, you'll probably hear that we don't need this because utilities already do community solar. Yes, utilities technically can develop community solar on their own, but their business model is built around centralized generation and building utility-scale infrastructure. States that rely on utilities to build community solar projects often see very limited results. In fact, Missouri's utilities only have a handful of projects which demonstrate the need for a more robust and competitive market. That will also ensure that programs are designed to maximize benefits to participants. Also, you might hear from the utilities that this is deregulation. This bill does not deregulate the energy industry. There are a number of states that are regulated that have community solar. This just introduces some competition into the system, and the program will be highly regulated by the PSC. We would welcome the opportunity to work with the utilities in Missouri to make sure that both they and energy customers are benefiting and providing another energy option here in the state. And with that, thank you, and I will take any questions.
Thank you. Okay, so like you said, it could be up to 30 acres. So this is not, in the one states where you have this, your solar array is not near these apartment complexes or whatever, right? I mean, they're really unrelated. You're at one end, you're generating, plugging into the grid, and then selling apartment complexes that they are pulling out, just pulling off the grid, and you're offsetting those costs.
Yeah, that's correct. Unlike, these are in front of the meter assets, so unlike rooftop solar, which are behind the meter and actually the person is using the energy on site, this energy is being sold back to the grid. I will say that in a lot of states, they do build community solar projects on large apartment buildings. Commercial and industrial roofs are a big source of sort of land, if you will, for these projects.
So, so you'll be selling this to the SPP, or if it's in the western side of Missouri, or MISO on the eastern side? Is that what you'll be doing?
Yeah,
selling it
this bill is
thing?
isolated to the investor-owned utilities.
Right. So you'll be selling it to the regular auction, and so you're okay. It's just a little different than I was thinking. It's really you're just kind of a small generator, sort of speak. Okay. Thank you. Anybody else have questions for this witness? Seeing none. Thank you very much. Somebody in opposition, please come forward.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Committee. Jason Clint, Senior Director of External Affairs for Evergy, and we are in opposition to this bill because it is both unnecessary and unworkable. I listened very carefully to understand what the problem is we were trying to solve here, and I didn't hear it because the gentleman's correct. We already offer community solar. Evergy offers it, Ameren offers it, I think Liberty offers it. Interestingly, the only group that doesn't offer community solar is exempted from this bill. So it's uncertain to me exactly what the problem we're trying to solve here. But what I can tell you about Evergy is that we already have community solar subscription programs. We have about 1,200 customers that are subscribed at our Hawthorne facility. We have a wait list right now of about 180 customers. We are now going to open up another 4 megawatts to satisfy that demand. We also have a PSC-approved low-income tariff for customers. Over 70 customers have enrolled. It's a pilot program for folks that make under 200% of the federal poverty limit. So we already have these opportunities for our customers that are out there. But what's interesting about this bill is that it seeks to put all of the regulatory burden on the utilities and none on them. So we're the ones that are required to come up with the billing. We're the ones that are required to be able to credit or not customers. Who do customers call when they're unhappy with what's happening? I think they're probably going to call us, not them. But what's really there are a couple of really egregious parts of this bill. The first is that under this bill, the utility is required to buy the unsubscribed portion of the resource. So in other words, they go and build it, and they don't sell it to the customer. They just require the utility to buy it. So let's be very clear about who that is. That's not me. That's you. Our customers are paying for that. So essentially, this business model says, hey, we're just going to go build it, and the utility will pay for it, whether or not we get a customer or not. And so I think that is, they'll make the argument that, well, no, they're just going to buy it at a lower rate and turn around and resell it. No, we don't. Because the way this works is for Evergy, and I'm sure it's similar for Ameren and MISO, but in the SPP, we go and get our energy in the day-ahead market from the SPP. So we already have all the energy we need for that day. So the electricity that they're selling me, which, by the way, is a mandate under any definition of the word mandate, but the electricity that they're selling me, I don't need. So I'm literally buying excess electricity that I cannot use that day. And when I say your constituents are paying for that. So there is a definite incentive here for them to go and build as much of this as quick as they can because the utility is their backstop. The other thing that you'll notice is that there's a 5% of the prior year's retail sales. And so my dad was a math teacher, so I like to do math. So I went and I looked. It was in 2022, it was 16 billion kilowatt hours that we sold in Missouri. 5% of that would be about 18 million, or I'm sorry, it'd be big numbers, you got to get ready, would be 816 million kilowatt hours. So you do the math on that, that's about 570 megawatts to build normal solar characteristics. It takes about 5 acres for every megawatt of solar that you're building. So do the math on that. You're now talking for Evergy only, that's 2,500 acres of Missouri farmland that you will be greenlighting for solar. Let's even expand that a little bit more because it's not just Evergy. It's Ameren and Liberty as well. Ameren's about twice as large as Evergy is. Liberty's a little bit smaller. My guess is that's going to come somewhere around 7,500 acres of Missouri farmland that will now be looking for community solar. And remember, they're incentivized to go build as much of it and as fast as they can, whether or not there's any demand, because it's backstopped by the utility. You are giving them a captive customer base that has to pay for this, whether or not they are signed up for this solar subscription. So I listened very carefully, Mr. Chairman. I did not hear the problem that we're trying to solve, but I can see the problem we're creating. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to take any questions.
Senator May.
So I just want some clarification. So right now, we have solar farms in Missouri, right?
We do. So let's just walk through them. I think that'll be helpful. So there are some that are utility. The utility will build a solar farm for its own generation. There are also folks like Nextera or Invenergy that build solar farms. They're different because they sell that energy to either SPP or they have a buyer that buys it. It can be a Missouri utility, could also be a utility from any state. This is different. What they are doing here is they're saying we're going to build a community solar project and your customers are going to pay for it whether or not they want it, whether or not it's needed and whether or not they're subscribed.
Okay, so so they have a buyer for their solar energy, but what if, say for instance, I own a farm and I want to do a solar farm with 10 acres of my farm? And so are you saying that if I do that, I would have to get a buyer, or the utility companies are not interested in buying that energy?
Neither. I'm saying neither of those things. So you can do that right now. You could take your 10 acres, you could sell it to Nextera and Invenergy, you could talk to Ameren, you could talk to Evergy and find a buyer for that. is unique, and people do that all the time, and you don't have to have a buyer for it. You could do it through the SPP. The SPP buys that with an interconnection. What I'm saying is unique about this is that we're backstopping them. In no other form do we backstop a solar farm with our customers who are not enrolled to it. That's
So
what's
this
unique about
bill
this
is
bill.
making it a requirement that the utilities purchase their unsold energy.
Correct.
Okay, very good.
Let me ask you something. We've got a big data center going in Kansas City.
You
as
do.
We talked about. That's kind of what they're doing on, that is sort of a solar array. I mean, they're buying it on the open market, a green energy, that's their intent. And so it's kind of like that without the mandate, so to speak.
What they are doing, so this is, again, what they are doing is they are purchasing, they're doing that solar, their landowners are willing and all that, and then they are selling it into the SPP market.
Right.
And so I would think that, they are not doing, what they are not doing is what this bill would do is say, hey, Evergy, we're building this and your customers are going to pay for it whether they want it or not.
Right, that's the point I was trying to say. Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else have questions? Seeing none. Thank you. Who's in favor of the bill? Please come forward.
Hello. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Kevin Borgia. I'm with Sunvest Solar. We're a developer of community solar projects across the country, and I'm here to support SB386. Sunvest originally started as a residential solar contractor in 2009 in Pewaukee, Wisconsin. We grew over the years, and we got very involved in the community solar market a few years later. And specifically in Illinois, which has a robust community solar market today, we actually got so invested in that market that we relocated our headquarters from another state just to be closer to the opportunity that exists there. It's now currently our biggest market. We've invested hundreds of millions of dollars in the state, and we've invested further hundreds of millions across the country. We have projects from Hawaii to Maine and a number of places in between. And what we're doing today is we're providing low-cost power and we're providing energy choice to tens of thousands of Americans. And really, choice is a key part of my testimony today. I want to describe a little bit about how Sunvest works with our farmer and our landowner partners, what we do and what we don't do. Our primary way is we approach landowners through mailers, through word of mouth, through relationships that we have. We work with those farmers, and only if they make the choice to get back to us and to work with us will we enter into a contract with them. There's no requirement that they have to do this. This is their property. We're big supporters of property rights. There's also no eminent domain involved in any solar project, especially not ours. We work through the lease terms, and then we work with the farmer to place the project where they want it. Because these are smaller projects, they don't have to take up the whole farm. They can take up maybe the back 40 acres that's maybe not so productive or is a bit harder to reach and is a bit more of a hassle for them to farm. We're able to access just that part and build the solar project without taking up the rest of the parcel. The farmer decides where that goes, and then we work with them to help build the access road that's gonna get out there, that's gonna help them to farm that area better. We use, on the site itself, we use almost no concrete. The piles are driven directly into the dirt. The sites are often planted with native plants, which, especially in the Midwest, can often include things like hay and alfalfa. Some developers will actually graze sheep under the panels. That'll help to lower those mowing costs. And then that'll mean that the land remains in agricultural production while also producing solar for up to 40 years. But during that time, it's like letting the land lay fallow, right? You're not going to have any compaction from farm equipment. You're not going to have the chemicals that are required for modern agriculture. And over time, you're going to get better aerated land. It's going to have higher microbial growth. You're going to have higher levels of nitrogen. By any measure, the land is going to be healthier when we leave than it is today. And that's why a lot of farmers are interested in investing in these projects, so that it provides them that kind of backstop against those volatile commodity prices or bad weather years or tariffs or any of the other things that are facing modern farmers today. And so I would also like to respond to a couple things that were brought up by the utilities just now. The problem that we're solving here is that the utilities don't today offer a program that's going to help consumers save money. My understanding of the utility community solar programs is that it's a premium product. Community solar, as envisioned in this bill, as well as how it's played out across the country, is a money-saving product. Customers are able to subscribe to the community solar projects and save money over existing default utility service rates. And so that's really the program that we're trying to solve. The current utility programs are also very small. small. I think just a handful of megawatts. Contrast that with the state of New Mexico, which has one of the smallest community solar programs in the country. That's 200 megawatts in the first round and 300 in the second round. That's been an enormous economic driver in the state. My company's very invested there as well. To the point about bill crediting, yeah, it is a change for the utilities. There is some updates to the billing systems that need to be made, but it's not rocket science. This is community solar is kind of an accounting measure for the utilities. Utilities across the country have been able to update their billing systems to accommodate this. Specifically, also, I would say Ameren. In Illinois, Ameren has an operational community solar program, hundreds of megawatts that are in the ground today. My company's very invested there. Ameren has been able to update their billing system to accommodate that. It's actually fairly easy. And then the last point I want to raise, too, is about the unsubscribed energy. I think that's a bit of a boogeyman, just to clarify. Unsubscribed energy, first of all, we don't want unsubscribed energy, right? Anyone that's selling a product wants to sell all of their product. And we want to do that. We want to get 100% subscriptions. I can give you an example. In Colorado, it's about 1% of all energy that is unsubscribed. And so we want to minimize that. To the extent that the utilities do have to buy it, yeah, they do. They buy it at avoided cost, which is the rate that they would pay for power otherwise. There's not some premium requirement for buying expensive power here. It's avoided cost. We don't want to sell power at that rate. And especially when we're talking about this massive need for meeting load demand that is in SB4, community solar can just be a small part of that. And so we think that community solar is part of the all of the above strategy, and I'm happy to take any questions about it.
Thank you. Questions for this witness? Senator Carter.
Can you tell me how much you pay the farmers for? Do you lease the land? Do you purchase the land?
We tend to lease it, yeah, and it can vary, but it's certainly more than they're going to pay. It can vary by developer. It's far more than they're going to make farming.
Do you have an average on?
I hesitate to say, but it could be between $500 and $2,500 an acre per year, guaranteed for about 40 years. And I purposefully gave you a wide range there. Oftentimes in more experienced markets, you see more demand from developers, and farmers get savvy and start to raise what they're asking for. I mean, if this bill gets out of committee, you'll see rates probably go up because there starts to become interest. You'll see more mailers going out, and so that does increase over time.
And so your typical lease is how long? 4 years? Is that what
It's
you
about
said?
40 years. Yeah,
40?
All in for 40 years, and it's a guaranteed income throughout that time period.
Okay, thank you.
Do you, as far as where you locate these things, do they have to be close to the grid where it's you've got a capability of carrying 5 megawatts? Isn't that much, but is there any consideration about that, or is it just about any place on the grid you could plug in?
Oh, certainly. I mean, we have internally, I can say, we have a guy whose entire job is GIS. I mean, he finds places on the distribution grid to plug in projects, and
because you're not running poles, you're not putting up a bunch of lines.
Usually, we might put up a few just to interconnect to nearby lines
on their
but,
property. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things about community solar that's really a benefit is we try to find little pockets on the existing grid where there's capacity and plug in there, as opposed to requiring construction of new substations and that kind of thing.
Okay. Thank you. Senator May.
So you already produce solar farms?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you have some in Missouri?
We don't have any in Missouri currently. We have projects in Illinois, in Iowa, Nebraska, Wisconsin, Maine, New Mexico.
Okay. And so in this bill, the utilities would buy the what you call unsubscribed energy.
Yeah, there could be a small component that they'd buy at avoided cost.
Okay. Is there a cap in this bill? I didn't see it. Or is there, you follow me? So basically, we're saying that whatever the utilities have here, because they are a monopoly, most of the cost is passed on to the customers. Mm-hmm. So that's my concern.
Yeah.
And then one other question, and I'll let you comment on both. Do the farmers where you set up the solar farms, are they using the energy that's produced by those solar farms, or are they on the grid?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think to your last one, the farmer who leases the land remains connected to the grid. The benefit of community solar is that it's for anyone who does not have access to putting solar on their own roof, right? So if they live in an apartment, they have trees that shade their building. For the farmer, they're just like any other customer, right? They could subscribe to the project if they want. They don't have to. They could just benefit from the lease payments. And then to your first question about the avoided cost, you're right. I mean, we don't want to saddle consumers with expensive power, and this bill doesn't do that. The avoided cost is the cheapest power on the grid. It's that avoided cost rate is set by the commission, and it's very low. So if there is energy that's purchased by the utility, it's going to be purchased at a very, very low cost, which is going to be passed on to ratepayers.
Senator May, okay. Let me, so the people, say you're in an apartment complex and one of the things they offer is this community solar. Do they just still get one bill from the utility, and it's reduced however amount that is?
Ideally, yeah. There are different flavors of community solar that have manifested across the country. Ideally, you have consolidated billing, where they get one bill from the utility. Some states don't do that, and the customer ends up getting two bills. The net value of those bills is lower, so they pay less, but they do get two bills. That's a suboptimal customer experience, I think. Net crediting or consolidated billing is definitely the gold standard, I think, in the industry.
So you've put in 5 meg at the input, and on the outside, just depending on how much you use all the apartments, they just prorate it across those as far as the reduction?
Yeah. It becomes part of the utilities accounting system. They're able to allocate those credits proportionately based on an individual customer's load, whether they're a residential customer or a commercial industrial.
Okay. Thank you. Is there a requirement that the customers are all together, or can they just be willy-nilly across the city, across the grid?
It can be in any interested customer in a particular utility service territory. So if a project is in Evergy, the customer has to be in Evergy.
Okay. But it's not one apartment complex that's offering this service. I was kind of comparing it to the old days when they used to have apartment complexes. Instead of getting landlines, they put in a PBX and give people station phones, but you had to be right
No,
there.
it's not like that.
So it can be anywhere.
It's more, the beauty of the electric grid as it exists today is
Right.
it covers broad areas.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Senator May.
What is the average lease to farmers? What are the average lease?
Yeah, as I was telling the senator, it can vary a lot depending on the developer, depending on the farmer. I hesitate to quote any pricing, right? To be clear, but it can be $500 to $2,500 an acre, which is significant revenue for to provide a hedge against other kind of commodity risks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. No other questions. Thank you very much. Next in opposition, please come forward. I'm sorry. Senator Bernstein.
So you keep talking about somebody subscribing. How do you subscribe?
Yeah, so I'm a community solar subscriber, right? I went online. I went to a company and I filled out my information. It's very similar to like subscribing for Netflix or Apple TV, right? You fill out a form and then that company is going to interface with the utility, get you added into the utilities billing system, and then what I see is an additional bill, a line on my bill that says that my power is provided by a community solar company.
So do you pay, like, if I subscribed with you, I'd have to pay you and Evergy?
Yeah, like I was saying to the chairman, ideally we have a consolidated billing where I'm just going to pay a bill to Evergy, and there's going to be a line item on there that says your power is provided by SunVest.
So how much does it cost to subscribe?
So the cost can vary. Usually there's maybe a small sign-up fee, although that's not, the beauty of this is that there allows competitive opportunities. Some developers might have a sign-on fee and some don't. But what we all compete against each other as different community solar companies is to sell power at the cheapest rate possible. So usually it's about a 10% discount off of the default service rates, but sometimes you may go higher. Some developers may offer special discounts to, say, nonprofits or municipal governments, that kind of thing, churches.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So as part of the lease, can you describe to us what it looks like if where's the liability for cleanup lie?
Yeah, good question. So farmers are smart, and before they enter into a lease on their land, they're often asking these same questions. Usually we address that in the lease. We make sure that the liability to remove the projects is on us as a developer. There are a number of different ways that we can provide for that, some kind of a bond or something. And we do provide that in the lease so that at the end of 40 years, we're taking the panels out, we're making sure that it's cleaned up and the site's remediated, and they're going to end up having those benefits that I described of kind of healthier soil.
And so if a tornado comes through and wipes out, not that anybody wants that to happen, but are there remediations in the lease for environmental?
Yeah, so we write that in the lease that we would cover it. And then, of course, like any other piece of infrastructure, we're insured, right? So if a tornado did come through, God forbid, we'd be insured from that, and then the onus would be on us to come through and do that cleanup.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Much.
Thank
Next
you.
person in opposition, please come forward.
Morning, Senator. Yeah, it's going to be there. Chairman and committee members, good morning. Thank you for this opportunity to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 386. My name is Warren Wood. I'm Ameren, Missouri's Legislative and Regulatory Vice President. This bill is electric deregulation for solar subscribers, and it's done so without the protections, customer protections, that's normally associated with a deregulated effort for customers. My primary concerns of the legislation can be summarized as follows. First, on page 4, this legislation clearly prevents Public Service Commission and Office of Public Counsel oversight of these community solar subscriber administrators. Ameren, Missouri's community solar projects clearly have PSC and OPC oversight, which is important for a reason I'll get to in a moment. On page 7, this bill spells out that our company would be required to purchase any solar energy the subscriber can't get customers to subscribe for, regardless of if we need the electricity or not. Next, on page 4, the bill goes so far as to say the bill credits established by the Public Service Commission must be valued to maximize customer participation. This provision clearly doesn't anticipate these subscribers paying their full embedded cost associated with providing a service like this, like Ameren, Missouri's community solar customers are required to pay the full embedded cost, so other customers don't see an increase in cost. Taken collectively, these requirements drive one result. Other customers see higher electric rates. So why would other customers see higher rates? Our electric rates are set, including an embedded cost of generation, transmission, and distribution infrastructure. A significant part of the rate everybody pays for every unit of energy includes all this embedded infrastructure that's serving them. If you set the rate so you're not recovering those provisions in this bill credit, and so you provide a discount to customers so you're not paying that portion of it, effectively our electric usage, if this was fully subscribed, which the Commission is dictated to make it attractive, so you drop the rate something lower, we'll see, it's targeted 5%. So let's say we see a 5% reduction in usage. Well, in the next electric rate review, every time we go in for electric rate review, the Public Service Commission and all the other parties look at our total unit of sale, all the units of electricity we sell. They take all those fixed costs and divide by those units of sale. If we see a 5% reduction in those units of sale, everybody else sees a little over a 5% increase in rates. That's the net effect of putting this in place. Thank you again for the opportunity. Welcome any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Next person in favor, please come forward. How many more people are in support? How many opposed? Okay, so we'll just go with support now. Thank you. Please leave a witness form and let us know who you are.
Good afternoon. My name is Gretchen Waddell Barwick, and I am the Missouri Chapter Director of the Sierra Club. And I'm here to testify on behalf of our more than 11,000 members and 30,000 supporters across the state. I'm excited to testify in support of this bill. Sierra Club, our mission is to explore, enjoy, and protect the planet. And this community solar project is a fantastic way to protect the planet and the people who live on it. Community solar is a great way to provide affordable, clean energy to communities. And this is particularly important, as has been discussed a lot in this legislative session. The cost of utilities continue to rise, and Missourians struggle to pay their bills. I'm particularly pleased to see this program includes priorities for residential energy and low-income communities. I would hope that a program like this could be expanded to support more of our struggling communities in the future. I encourage you all to consider increasing the minimums on this bill from 10% low-income customers to significantly higher, as those are the folks in our state that would benefit the most. Just this year, Sierra Club, Renew Missouri, Power D City, and Missouri Consumers Council released the St. Louis Energy Burden Report and the Energy Burden Tool. This report showed conclusively that families are struggling under the burden of utility bills, and it aligns with their zip code and often with their race. This tool could be used as a way to identify communities in which pilot programs like this could be situated. Additionally, I ask you to consider increasing the minimum of residential customers above the mandated 20% minimum. This would prioritize the people who need it the most, again, or to prioritize potentially small businesses who would also benefit significantly from lower utility bills. Small businesses are the cornerstone of our communities, and anything we can do to support them would be fantastic. Finally, in addition to the economic benefits of this bill and the benefits to our communities, this program is a first start to stopping the catastrophic damage of climate change. Climate change is driven by fossil fuels like coal, gas, and oil, and in addition to being a threat to the future of humanity, fossil fuels have negative health impacts right now. Several of our utilities who are present here are in the middle of either lawsuits or alleged issues due to health concerns from the impacts of burning coal and natural gas. I hope that you all will consider this as you move forward. Moving to wind and solar and programs like this significantly reduce our risk for health. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for this witness? Seeing none. Thank you very much. Next in favor, please come forward.
Okay, good morning, honorable members of the Commerce Committee. Thank you for allowing me to present today. I'm working with American Power Play. My name is Lori Sane, and I'm a former Colorado State representative and a Weld County commissioner. The Sierra Club would probably tell you I have a 0% environmental score in the House, but this isn't about climate change, it's about free markets. Recently, I passed a model policy approved by the American Legislative Exchange Council that encourages community solar and agrivoltaic projects as a solution towards American energy independence and creating more competition in the energy market. ALEC is the only organization for lawmakers adhering to Jeffersonian principles of limited government, free markets, and federalism. And their endorsement of community solar is an important development. Colorado has one of the longest standing community solar programs in the nation, and I wanted to share my experience working with our farmers and ranchers in eastern Colorado and how small community solar projects, 5 megawatts or less, have breathed new life into our communities. Weld County is one of the most productive oil and gas basins in the nation, but they've also embraced community solar as a way for small farming and ranching operations to survive the volatility of crop markets and increasing inputs on all fronts. Our rural farmers and ranchers feed the rest of Colorado and the world. Weld County is one of the top 10 producers of agricultural goods in the nation, and rural Colorado's culture is deep and patriotic. But it's fading fast as farmers and ranchers are aging out. As the older generation ages out, the younger generation is finding it more difficult to afford land and the uncertainty of that lifestyle. With small-scale solar, they can have 20 to 40 years of reliable passive income to offset the large capital startup expenses. With new tariffs, the reduction of certain farm subsidies, and the Secretary of Agriculture's aversion to ethanol, the American farmer needs a free market source of income to keep the family farm operating and in production. In Weld County, we found that community solar isn't replacing farming, it's working alongside it. Projects are also often located on less productive land or grazing lands for a variety of livestock. In Colorado, there are community solar projects growing wheat and alfalfa under solar panels. Solar panels can also generate energy while giving shade to animals in feedlots, hog farms, and other animals like Angus cattle, which don't fare as well in hot climates. With the advent of drip tape robotic drone tractors that weed and feed, the future of farming is energy and technology. Community solar in Colorado provides long-term stable income for farming and ranching families, and is part of our state's all-the-above energy approach, providing more competition in the market and lower energy bills for all. We found that community solar pays its own way, pays for its interconnection to the grid, and any upgrades needed to keep utilities whole. Community solar can provide power and infrastructure upgrades where it is needed the most, where it is being consumed by the community. And this is especially important in rural areas where costs are higher because of the miles of line required to deliver power to farms and rural homes. And as America ages, rural America ages, there is a strain on emergency services like firefighters and EMTs that need to stabilize folks for up to an hour before they get to the hospital. Community solar is private investment injected directly into communities, which creates increased tax revenues for public schools and emergency services for years to come. We appreciate our utility friends, but they said they don't need any more energy production in the House last night. And perhaps that is true in Missouri, but every other state is competing to bring manufacturing and jobs back to their state. And energy generation close to home can generate jobs close to home. Folks can't always drill an oil well in their backyard or build a small nuclear plant, but if you can see the sky, you can generate energy with small solar. Most importantly, because of the competition that community solar provides, it lowers the cost of electricity bills for your constituents, which is something that is very important for any working family right now. Thank you so much for your consideration on this bill, and I'm here for any questions.
Thank you. Questions? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
For your testimony. Next in favor, please come forward.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Bruce Morrison. I am a lawyer in St. Louis with an organization called Great Rivers Environmental Law Center, and I also serve as the Environmental Justice Committee Chair for the Missouri NAACP. This is a view from 30,000 feet. So a brief statement that Missouri has needed a bill like this for a long time, and both of the organizations that I represent support this. At the Law Center, we get calls throughout the state from the rural communities, from the urban communities, asking, do they have the ability to put in community solar in the territories that are where the regulated utilities serve, Ameren, Evergy, Empire? And the answer is not without a bill like this. It's been needed for a long time. And for heaven's sakes, it's a pilot. It's not all in, always in. It's a pilot. It's a long-needed pilot. It's understandable why the regulated utilities would oppose this. They don't want to relinquish their monopoly power. I think if I were a monopoly, I wouldn't want to give it up either. But it's a long-needed, very long-needed pilot, and we support. And that's the 30,000-foot view.
Thank you. Initially, you said you were with the NEA something, NEACP or something? What is that?
I serve as the Environmental Justice Committee Chair for the Missouri State Conference of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People.
Oh, NAACP. Okay, I didn't hear that right. Okay.
And I know at the national level, National NAACP, with all of its members, it's the oldest civil rights organization in the nation. They support this, as do all of the state conferences and the local branches.
Okay, I just misheard the acronym. Sorry about that. Any questions for this
I'm a mumbler, so that's going to help me throughout the day, and I appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Next, I don't see any questions, so thank you, sir. Next in favor, please come forward. I'm hoping everybody has left a witness form for our records. Thank you.
Good morning, Chairman Sarapoint, members of the committee. My name is Philip Frasica. I'm Director of Programs for Renew Missouri. We're a 501c3 organized to promote clean energy policy. I really just want to hit on a few brief things. Having the talking points around the problem, what problem are we solving here? We currently don't have an option if you're wanting to benefit from community solar and see a reduction in your bill. We have net metering. If you own your property, that's great. That is awesome for individuals that own property and can put solar on their roofs or put it elsewhere on their property. If you are a utility customer and you sign up to a community solar program offered today, it is at a premium. There are not alternative options. We've had the Inflation Reduction Act. We've had all these incentives almost for 3 years now. We've not seen anything brought to customers that'll give them a reduction on their bill. There are ways we could adjust that for low income with weatherization, with light heat to make that an option. That has not happened either. So this is giving us an opportunity to actually give a benefit if you do not own property through solar in the state of Missouri. We've also heard a lot around issues around cyber attacks, issues around extreme weather and reliability on the grid. One thing I know anecdotally, in the city of Columbia, we would have had a transformer explode last summer, but the Truman Solar facility that Columbia Water and Light owns and operates was able to prevent that from happening because it generated an essential part of their grid where it's able to go and relieve that stress on the system. So, as we heard from some developers here, if they're able to really locate this on a good spot on the grid, this could also be used as a way to prevent future investment and could create cost savings for utilities down the road.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Next in favor, please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. John Dolan, the Executive Director of MOSIA, the Missouri Solar Energy Industries Association. I think everything's been said today. We were submitted some testimony of what is community solar, why are other states adopting it, how can Missouri participate through this excellent bill, who benefits while the utilities are opposed, what are some of the other benefits. As you know, MOSIA brings all the solar stakeholders together, predominantly for rooftop and the different issues surrounding it. I wanted to applaud you for your work on Senate Bill 4, the Senator for his work on this, and the tax fix issue, as well as promote this pilot project. One thing I would say is that it's intricately involved to the IRP reforms that are going through on your excellent product and went through the House yesterday. This is a small price to pay or a small ask for pilots. I'll leave you with the fact that we could put this in any community, as senators have asked. So let's think about maybe the Ameren area of the local state Senate district and call it, hypothetically, the Bernskeder family community solar. And if you did that, you would then grab that area and you would be able to develop it. It engenders more community support, more local, 5 megawatts or less, and it's a part of the bigger DER solution. Now, while that example may never happen, should or shouldn't, it is a good example of where we are asking for something infinitely reasonable if the other concerns of the IOUs were worked out on a separate bill in this opportunity. But I'm here to tell you that without bothering this committee this year, we've been lucky to be heard on bills like this and a net metering solution and tax fully in the House. And MOSIA appreciates your time and effort to do this and the bigger utility issues that are now moving after a 2-year stall in this legislature. So thank you for that work. Thank you for this. We've submitted the testimony and we're happy to continue to be a part of the discussion.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Why is it just for IOUs? Why don't they try to say we're going where the co-ops are, where the munis are?
You know, I did some research recently on that. There's a lot of states that exempt the co-ops and munis because of their voracious opposition on the net metering issue. I think in this case, because of the PSC control, it's the easiest and to work within those frameworks. The co-ops are dead set against just about everything we bring out of the gate. Munis do have small grid stabilization issues. We're trying to work with them on the net metering side. I'm sure they'd bring those same concerns to something like this. I think in this particular case, and I'm very thankful for the Coalition, Coalition for Community Solar Access presence today in the House hearing. It was the most expert, pro-solar, fair, balanced testimony I've ever seen and very targeted. I think the challenge is that, if you do it there in a proper pilot, that the great work we've done on interconnection with Evergy and Ameren can be a model and that we can all work together. There are also many more solar projects within those IOUs that are working the off-taker and the capabilities. And to their credit, when forced or willing, the avoided cost models, the interconnection capabilities, and their knowledge of the federal rules when you're going up to these higher megawatts, and of course, MISO and SPP, FERC, PURPA, they know what they're doing, and I think it's a proper place for the pilot. My goal would be to want to keep them whole, but I couldn't sit before you and say that they want to control, and they are a monopoly, and there is money involved. So we need to work all that out through something guided by the PSC.
Thank you. Questions for John? Seeing none. Thank you very much. I'm going to change rules just for a minute. I think we have one more opponent, and we're going to special dispensation, let them come forward. Oh, are you against or for?
No, I'm with the NAACP and I wanted to speak on this bill regarding the.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Panel, everyone. Thank you. My name is Phyllis Knight, and I am with the St. Louis County NAACP, but I'm also here as a consumer of an electricity consumer. But I've always been interested in getting solar panels on my home in West County. But the concern has been that it isn't, nothing I've seen, even though it comes across the internet as it's, or however you may see these commercials regarding solar panels, that it's like there's no cost to it. But when I had someone in my home to talk to me about it, and my question will go towards, is there anything in this bill that is, I heard someone speak of DEI, but is there something in this bill that would make it affordable for people that are having trouble? When I did interview in my home, and they told me how my bill matched what the cost would be and all, that was kind of high for, I would say, someone that doesn't have an income like mine or whatever, but how would that affect, how would that help other people, this bill? How will it help the consumer that, you know, may not be making a lot of money and they want to save money and be a part of this panel?
Thank you very much. Anybody have any questions for this witness?
No questions, no answers. Any questions for me?
No, I think there's no questions now. I'm sorry, we have members that they've got a lot of other things going. We're running
I
kind of long,
understand.
so
Yes,
I
but I
apologize
thank you for
the-
hearing.
You
And
bet.
yeah.
Thank you very much for coming forward. Next, in opposition?
Mr. Chairman, I apologize for my tardiness. I want to go on record in reluctant opposition to the sponsor's bill on behalf of Liberty Utilities. I know previous witness covered our concerns about the bill. Be happy to take any questions you might have.
Thank you, Dave. Anybody have any questions? Seeing none. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next in favor, please come forward. How many more are in favor? Okay.
Is it morning still? Good morning, Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Melissa Vatterat. I'm Director of Policy and Strategy for Missouri Coalition for the Environment. I don't have a whole lot that's new. I'm just going to reiterate others that were in support. I think this is good for rural and urban Missourians, folks of all household income levels, and is an exciting way to diversify and increase the reliability of our energy.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Okay.
Senator Trent, I think that's it. Do you have anything you'd like to finish with?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to add just one additional thing, because I know the amount of farmland that could be occupied by this has been an issue that's been brought up a couple of times. I think one of the earlier witnesses testified that if you maximize it, it could be as much as 2,500 acres. The University of Missouri Extension Office, they keep records on this. So in 1969, Missouri had 21.5 million acres of cropland, and we're down to 15.6 million right now. So even if this was maxed out and it was all farmland, we're talking about a very, very tiny percentage. And, you know, as other witnesses testified, you know, this does not have to go on farmland. It can go on rooftops. It can go on land that's not suitable for agriculture and other locations as well. So just wanted to put that in context since that had been brought up, and very appreciative of the committee's time and consideration on this issue.
And it's volunteer, so.
That's absolutely.
So thank you very much,
Thank you.
Senator Trent. That concludes the hearing on Senate Bill 386, and no other business before the committee. We are adjourned. Sorry I missed you there, Mike.